10,000 years of ceaseless building for an idea called civilization. Centuries of wars annihilating one-third of humanity. Nation against nation, brother against brother killing each other. Conflicts that see no end other than the demise of mankind. Destruction upon destruction that now confronts the total demolition of our very life support, the natural environment. What do we really need? Hi, I am Bimcab and you are watching BC Earth Live channel. Let's dive in. Hi folks, this time I would like to discuss the topic of what we humans really need. Humans require certain things in order to live. A study listed 6 basic needs of man. And they are food, number 1. Safe, clean water and sanitation, number 2. Healthcare, number 3. Shelter, number 4. Number 5, education. And number 6, access to information. Of course, people would like to add clothing. No man can go on for days without food. Every living organism requires nutrient to build cells and grow. Food also provides the material to convert into energy, which all organisms must generate to move and do its one's functions. Equally important, water cannot be absent in plants and animals. Without water, they will die. The element makes up 60% of the adult human body. Dehydration can lead to organ failures or death. But needs, as people conceive them today, are actually a sociocultural construct. This means that convention and thinking in society have determined their particular form, type, quality, and quantity. Determination differs at every stage of social historical development. The kind of food, shelter, education, and information, for example, that we presently need may not be what it was a century ago. Taste and style in an era play a role. Meanwhile, the forces and relations in place to produce them change. They are definitely not what they were in feudal times as they currently are. Spread out tracts of cultivated lands then, concentrated industrial complexes now. Peasant-landlord relationship then, wage-labor relationship between capitalists and workers now. So, need as we know it today came out of social conditioning. To not eat food, for example, in the form prescribed by society, is to feel deprived of well-being. This is different than simply going hungry. The former is a social construct that has a moral, political meaning. The latter is just pure and simple bodily sensation. Satisfying the former has to do with social and economic relationships and the kind of artificial order people subject themselves to. The latter has to do with the natural scheme of things that social systems tend to override. Thus, we focus on all manners of struggle to meet needs as culture defines, but ignore the fundamental factors without which the existence of any life form is impossible. We dismiss as nothing of value forest in mountain peaks, slopes with vegetation, free-flowing rivers, precise temperature, diversity of flora and fauna, things happening at the right season. Although far more crucial to our survival than, for instance, education and shelter, we don't consider them needs. Meanwhile, the social means by which humans procure needs would show later not to be sustainable. Natural resource exhaustion without regeneration, in the case of mineral extraction and logging, is one. The destruction of diverse ecosystems to pave the way to monocrop agriculture is another. Yet, there is more to the so-called needs than society figures. There is more to food or water than meets the eye. These are the fundamental factors essential for humans and indeed all species to exist, and food in particular to even be possible. They are not social, but ecological. Let's examine the critical ecological factors we have been missing to notice all these years, but the very things we can't afford to lose. First, air, or more exactly, atmosphere. Animals, especially humans, will die if they are not able to breathe. They must inhale oxygen, exhaling in turn carbon dioxide. Air in proper balance is the fundamental requirement to do so. Plants release oxygen and absorb carbon dioxide, thereby keeping the dynamic interaction highly important for organisms to breathe and live. Second, water, or more accurately, the hydrologic cycle. The hydrologic cycle is the transit of water from the sea to its distribution all over the land. Water starts from oceans, the biggest dam on the planet, rises above through evaporation, and gathers into clouds up there. Winds drive the clouds inland, which when cooled become rain. There are two ways by which they are cooled. One is by weather, especially in the chilly monsoon. Another is by the dense supply of oxygen when they sail into the thickly forested mountain peaks. Back to its liquid state in the form of rain, water, fresh and clean, hits ground. One portion of it seeps deep down below layers of soil to the aquifer. When groundwater comes into shallow land, it bursts into sweet mineral spring. Another part of the rainfall separates into runoff along slopes. It flows into gullies that turns to streams and rivers. Without such cycle encompassing the globe, there will be no water to drink and use by humans. All living things will be smothered in endless drought. Third, light and heat from the sun. Regulated by vegetation and the cold regions of the planet, solar radiation affords the degree of temperature needed by ecosystems to perform services to all life forms. Plants, on the other hand, use sunlight to photosynthesize, thereby cycling CO2 and oxygen and building Earth's food system. Without the warmth of the sun, water will freeze in rivers and lakes. Fourth, dry land maintained by soil and water balance. Disruption of the equilibrium would induce severe hazards, such as huge floods and landslides that pose to wipe out human and animal populations in tragic disasters. Dry land is needed to walk on, travel, build shelters, as well as pursue agriculture. Fifth, the nutrient cycle. The processing and transfer of food throughout the chain of links along the biophysical environment is how species take form. It fleshes out the physical reality of every living organism. The cycle of nutrient, also known as the food chain, happens because of the prey-predator interconnection. The disruption of such interconnection can condemn populations of species to starve, and species themselves to extinction. Humans will be among the ones to miss food. This can be volatile when mass hunger ensues, leading to cataclysmic social upheavals. The natural cycles and balances just mentioned are necessities all of us must take care not to despoil in order to go on living. Whether or not we will continue to meet the basic needs society determines for everyone depends on them. It is imperative for us to ensure their sustainability. To Homo sapiens in particular, their continued operation is life insurance for many generations. Again, the fundamental ecological factors all species, especially humans, require to live are atmosphere, the balance of oxygen and CO2 in the air, the hydrologic cycle or cycle of water, solar radiation, light and heat from the sun tempered by the Earth's interactive environments, dry land kept intact by soil and water balance, and the food chain or nutrient cycle. All should be well and fine, if not for the intervention of man in the workings of ecology. He entertained the notion of controlling and redirecting nature to serve his narrow purposes. He began to turn upside down environments set up through eons of geologic time. He dismantled natural biophysical systems and disrupted cycles and flows, all of which was to meet not even the need of everyone anymore as determined by society, but to sate the insatiable greed for profit of only a very few. Because of the new culture oriented to the profit motive, the procurement of needs would spin off geometric increases in other needs. Consumption ballooned with the inclusion of every idea of need hatched by social construct. Industrial complexes would rise, churning every conceivable want that makes money. Production branched out from churning consumer goods to making capital goods, or goods required by industries and businesses to run, such as machinery, raw materials, chemical agents, power, and energy. The ceaseless drive of production in both consumer and capital goods department would blow up into a Frankenstein monster, devouring natural resources almost with no more limit. In the wake of this, mankind would destroy natural environments beyond recovery, denying habitats to other species as well. But all would boomerang upon himself like a bad karma. The overriding pursuit of selfish profit in the guise of procuring so-called needs would eventually demolish natural life support systems and the critical ecological factors making human existence viable. Human life is not all that matters, and humanity is not supposed to be in here alone. Other organisms count, so much more perhaps than man could imagine. No species lives in isolation, independent of the others. Everyone interconnects with the whole in the same universe, from the microbe to the mammoth elephant, from the brain of an ant to that of Homo sapiens. And this holistic link-up happens also in dynamic interaction with non-living elements: air, water, sunlight, temperature, soil, salinity, and minerals, making every aspect of life go round. Man is the member of the animal kingdom that is supposed to possess higher intelligence. It should not be hard to understand that dominion over the rest, as he claims, doesn't mean himself living whimsically at their expense.